Liam sighed as he walked into the small, messy apartment he shared with his mom, Margaret. The air was stuffy and smelled like medicine. He put down his grocery bags on the old kitchen counter, trying not to make a noise. "Mom, I'm home," he called softly. A weak voice answered from the bedroom. "In here, sweetie." Liam's heart hurt as he went into the dim room where Margaret lay in bed, looking pale and tired. She gave him a weak smile as he took her hand. "How are you feeling today?" Liam asked gently. "Oh, same old," Margaret said, trying to sound cheerful. "Did you have a good day at work?" Liam nodded and forced a smile, not wanting to tell her about the unpaid bills waiting on the kitchen table. The weight of their debt felt heavy on him. Later that evening, after making sure his mom was comfortable, Liam sat at the kitchen table surrounded by overdue bills and medical papers. He felt tears coming as he looked at their financial problems. "There has to be a way," he said, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Just then, a flyer slipped out from the bills. He picked it up and saw it was for a charity gala that weekend, promising a fancy evening with wealthy people. "Maybe this is my chance," Liam whispered, feeling a bit hopeful for the first time in months. He grabbed his laptop and looked up more details. The gala was open to the public but had expensive tickets. Liam bit his lip, thinking hard about what to do. He knew it was a long shot, but he felt he had to try to help his mom and get out of their money problems. He nervously adjusted his rented tuxedo as he entered the grand ballroom, where crystal chandeliers sparkled above and everyone was dressed nicely. Liam felt out of place, surrounded by confident people. He looked around at the elegant decorations and listened to the soft music. The air smelled like fancy perfumes and gourmet food, making his stomach growl because he hadn't eaten since breakfast. As he moved through the crowd, he heard people talking about stocks and vacation homes, things that felt far away from his world of bills and his mom's sickness. Then he saw a striking woman across the room. She was dressed in a beautiful purple gown, and her silver hair was styled elegantly. She looked sad despite her grace. Liam overheard people talking about her, saying her name was Grace Thornton. They mentioned she had lost her husband and son and was very rich, inheriting her late husband's business. Grace rarely came to these events anymore. Liam's heart raced. Could this be his chance? He watched her as she moved toward the refreshment table. When her purse fell to the floor, Liam hurried to help. Liam stepped forward and said softly, "Excuse me, ma'am," as he bent down to pick up a purse. "I think you dropped this." Grace looked at Liam with her dark eyes. He saw surprise, thankfulness, and a bit of hope in them. "Oh, thank you, young man," Grace said warmly. "How kind of you to notice." Liam smiled and handed her the purse. "It's my pleasure, Mrs. Thornton. I'm Liam, by the way." Grace's eyes brightened with warmth when Liam introduced himself. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Liam," she said softly. "Are you enjoying the gala?" Liam nodded, feeling more comfortable as he looked into Grace's kind eyes. "I am, Mrs. Thornton, but I have to admit I feel a little out of place with all this grandeur." Grace laughed softly, like wind chimes. "Please call me Grace. Don't worry, I often feel the same way at these events." As they talked, Liam found himself really interested in Grace's stories. She talked about her late husband with so much love and respect that Liam was moved. "Thomas always believed in giving back," Grace said, her eyes getting teary. "Our foundation was his dream, It helps kids from less fortunate backgrounds get a good education." "That's amazing, Grace," Liam said, nodding. "Your husband must have been a wonderful man." Grace agreed, wiping her eyes with a delicate handkerchief. "What about you, Liam? What brings you to this gala?" Liam hesitated, but decided to be honest. "I've always wanted to help others. When I heard about this event, I knew I had to come, even if it meant renting this tuxedo," he added with a small laugh. Grace's face softened with understanding. "That's very admirable, Liam. It's not often I meet someone so young with such a giving heart." As they continued talking, Liam shared stories about volunteering at local shelters. Even though he added some details, the main stories were true. Grace was moved by his genuine desire to help others. "You know, Liam," she said, placing a hand on his arm, "we could use more young people like you in our foundation. Would you be interested in learning more about our work?" Liam's heart raced with excitement and a bit of guilt. "I'd be honored, Grace. Your work sounds truly inspiring." The next day, Grace and Liam met at a cozy cafe in the city. Sunlight filled the room, making everything feel warm. Grace was already there, and her elegant posture and kind smile caught the attention of other customers. When Liam walked in, he felt nervous and excited as he saw Grace. She greeted him with a gentle hug. "I'm so glad you could come, Liam," she said warmly. Liam smiled, feeling touched by her genuine welcome. "Thank you for inviting me, Grace. It means a lot." They sat down and the conversation flowed easily. Grace talked about her late husband and son with both joy and sadness, sharing happy memories. "They were my whole world," she said softly. "Losing them left such a big gap in my life." Liam gently placed his hand on hers. "I can't imagine how hard that must have been. You're very strong, Grace." As they talked more, Liam opened up about his own life, including his mother's illness and their financial struggles. He had planned to make up a story but ended up telling the truth. "Mom's all I have," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I'd do anything to make sure she gets the care she needs." Grace listened carefully, her heart going out to Liam. She saw in him someone who valued family and felt a strong sense of responsibility. "Liam," she said softly, squeezing his hand, "your dedication to your mother is truly admirable. It reminds me of how Thomas cared for his parents." As the afternoon went on, Grace felt more and more drawn to Liam's warmth and kindness. She saw in him a potential friend who shared her values and might help fill the emptiness in her life. Over the next days, Liam spent more time with Grace. They shared meals, went to charity events, and took long walks in the park, enjoying each other's company. Grace really liked Liam, and he could see it in her eyes and the way she smiled at him. But inside, Liam felt guilty every time Grace looked happy or reached for his hand. He reminded himself about his mom's bills and their money problems. One night, after saying goodbye to Grace, Liam sat at his desk in his small apartment. The light from his laptop made his face look worried as he started looking up Grace's money. He was nervous but kept going, and soon he saw that Grace had a lot more money than he thought. Liam started to make a plan. He decided to keep being nice to Grace, show her a lot of love, and then ask her to marry him. If he could marry her, he would have enough money to pay off his debts, help his mom, and get out of the tough life he was stuck in. But when he went to bed that night, he kept seeing Grace's kind face in his mind. He closed his eyes, trying to tell himself this was the only way he could solve his problems. As weeks went by, Liam and Grace spent more time together and their relationship grew stronger. Grace was excited to show Liam the charity projects she helped fund. One sunny day, they visited a community center she had supported. Grace was proud of how it was helping people. Liam pretended to be interested, but he was really thinking about how her money could help him. Later that evening, as they sat on her comfortable sofa, Grace looked sad and shared that she had felt very lonely after losing her husband and son. Liam felt guilty seeing how sad she was. He took her hand and said, "I'm here now," trying to sound caring. Grace smiled and said, "You've made me so happy. I never thought I'd feel this way again, but with you it feels right." As Grace talked about her fears and dreams, Liam listened and said the right things, but inside he was confused. He had planned everything carefully for that night. The fancy dinner, the walk in the park, and now standing on her balcony with the city lights below. He knew it was time. His heart was beating fast as he faced Grace, took a deep breath, and got down on one knee. He took out a small velvet box with a ring inside and asked, "Will you marry me?" His voice was soft and trembling. Grace put her hand over her mouth and gasped as tears filled her eyes. She looked down at Liam, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. "Oh, Liam," she said with a shaky voice. Yes, yes, I will marry you." Liam slipped the ring onto her finger, smiling as he stood up. Grace hugged him tightly, and her tears of joy made his shoulder wet. In that moment, Liam felt really happy because his plan was working. Soon he would get Grace's money, pay off his debts, and take good care of his mother. But as he held Grace and listened to her sweet words, he started to feel a little guilty. The wedding day came, with soft autumn sunlight all around. Grace picked a small chapel for the ceremony, and its stained glass windows made pretty patterns on the wooden pews. Liam stood at the altar, fidgeting with his bow tie, waiting for Grace to arrive. When she appeared, everyone gasped. She looked beautiful in a simple ivory gown, and her face was full of happiness. Liam felt his breath catch in his throat. For a moment, he forgot about his plan, lost in her beauty and the love in her eyes. The ceremony was short but touching. As they said their vows, Liam's voice wavered because he was torn between his real feelings for Grace and his guilt. When the minister said they were husband and wife, Grace's smile was so bright it seemed to light up the whole chapel. After the ceremony, the guests gathered for a small party at Grace's favorite restaurant. The room was filled with soft music and the gentle sound of champagne glasses clinking. Liam was surrounded by Grace's rich friends, and they were all looking at him closely. A man named Richard with silver hair came up to him and asked, "So Liam, Grace says you work in finance. Which firm do you work for?" Liam felt nervous but answered smoothly, "I'm between jobs right now. I'm excited to find new opportunities now that Grace and I are married." Richard raised an eyebrow but didn't say more. Liam could feel the guest's suspicion. He forced a charming smile, determined not to let their doubts bother him. Grace noticed the tension and came to his side. She linked her arm through his and smiled up at him, saying to her friends, "Isn't it wonderful? Liam has such a kind heart. He's been telling me all about his ideas for helping others." Liam was relieved by Grace's support and talked about his plans to make new projects, hoping to impress her friends. He saw their suspicions start to fade. At the end of the party, Liam walked into Grace's big mansion, amazed by how beautiful it was. The marble floors shined, and sunlight came through the tall windows. Grace squeezed his hand and said softly, "Welcome home, darling." As weeks went by, Liam started to like his new life, which he had always dreamed of. He woke up every day in a big, comfy bed and enjoyed the nice things around him. But it wasn't just the fancy stuff that changed him. Grace's love for helping others made him feel different. She invited him to join her at charity events and to help out with volunteer work. At first, Liam went just because he had to, but something surprising happened. At a soup kitchen, he saw Grace serving hot soup and talking kindly to everyone. Her real care for people made Liam feel something he hadn't felt before. Grace handed him an apron and asked him to help serve bread. Liam was unsure at first, but he put on the apron. As he handed out bread, he looked at the people he was helping. Their thankful smiles made him feel warm inside. One day, Grace took Liam to a shelter for women and children who needed help. He saw how happy and safe the people there were because of Grace's help. It made him feel very emotional. He told Grace that it was amazing, and she smiled, saying it was wonderful to make a difference. Liam agreed and started to see that wealth was more than just comfort. It could help others too. Liam began asking Grace about her other charity projects, not just to keep up his act, but because he really wanted to know. He listened closely as she talked about a new project to help kids in poor areas. To his surprise, Liam had ideas to make the project better. Grace was excited, and Liam got caught up in the idea of really helping people. As time went by, Liam loved spending quiet evenings with Grace. They would sit in a cozy library surrounded by books, drinking tea, and talking for a long time. One night, Grace shared her dream of starting a program to help kids who needed mentors. She looked excited, and Liam felt drawn to her passion. She asked him if he thought the program would make a difference. Liam thought for a moment and then said softly that it was a great idea and could help many lives. Grace was happy and touched Liam's hand, making him feel a special feeling he couldn't explain. As they talked about their dreams, Liam opened up about his own tough childhood, sharing stories he had never told anyone. Grace listened with care and said she admired his strength. Her kind words made Liam feel deeply. For a while, he forgot about his original plan and saw Grace for who she really was, a kind, caring woman who meant a lot to him. But as the evening ended, reality reminded him of his situation. Liam lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was full of worries. He liked Grace a lot, but he was also worried about his sick mom and their money problems. "I have no choice," he said quietly to himself. "This is the only way." Even though he told himself he had to do this, he felt guilty inside. The future seemed confusing, but he wanted to keep going, no matter what. Liam took a deep breath and went to find Grace in her study. She was busy with her work, but she smiled when she saw him. Liam felt bad inside. "Grace," he said softly, "I've been thinking about our money." Grace looked up from her papers, giving him her full attention. "Oh, what is it?" she asked. Liam sat down and said, "I thought it might be easier if we put our money together to make things simpler." He watched Grace carefully, hoping she might question him. But to his surprise, she smiled and said, "That's a great idea. It will definitely make things easier, guy. We're partners in everything else, so why not this too?" Liam felt a mix of relief and worry. "Are you sure?" he asked, hoping she would change her mind. Grace took his hand and said, "Of course I'm sure. I trust you completely. You've made me so happy." Her words made Liam feel even worse. He forced a smile and said, "Thank you, Grace. I'll talk to our lawyer and get it started." Later, back in their bedroom, Liam sat on the edge of the bed, feeling upset. He had done what he planned, but it didn't feel good. Grace's trust made it easier, but it also made him feel more guilty. The next day, Grace called Liam into her study with a big smile. "I have a surprise for you," she said, her eyes shining. Liam's heart raced as he wondered what it was. "What is it?" he asked. Grace turned her computer screen to show him a bank page. "I set up a joint account for us," she said warmly. "You can see all our money now." Liam's eyes widened when he saw the huge amount of money on the screen. He felt excited, but also a bit guilty. "Grace, I don't know what to say," he said, surprised by her trust and kindness. Grace reached out and held his hand. "You don't need to say anything," she said. "We're partners now, in everything." Over the next few days, Liam kept checking the account balance on his phone. Liam was feeling very guilty. The temptation was too strong, and he started taking small amounts of money from his account and putting it into a secret one he had made. He was careful to do this only now and then, so no one would notice. Each time he moved money, his heart beat fast because he felt both excited and ashamed. As the secret account grew, Liam felt both happy and uneasy. He was getting what he wanted, but it came at a cost. Grace, his partner, trusted him completely, and every loving look she gave him felt like she was silently accusing him. One night, while they were sitting together, Grace leaned on Liam's shoulder and said she was happy they were managing everything together. Liam felt a heavy weight of guilt as he hugged her back. Days turned into weeks, and every morning, Liam woke up next to Grace, feeling more troubled inside. Grace loved him more and more, but it made him feel worse. One sunny day, as they walked hand in hand in their beautiful garden, Grace told him she was so happy to have found joy again after losing her husband and son. Her words made Liam's chest tighten. He tried to smile, but inside he was falling apart. That evening, while Grace cooked dinner, Liam went to their bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, feeling very guilty. He thought about his sick mother who needed help with her medicine. He told himself he had to keep doing this for her. But even as he tried to explain his actions, he felt like he was losing part of himself. Grace's love was breaking down his defenses. When Grace called him for dinner, Liam took a deep breath, pushed aside his doubts, and went downstairs with a smile, trying to keep up his secret. He wondered how long he could keep living like this. As Liam got more involved in Grace's charity work, his inner struggle grew stronger. He went with her to charity events and helped at local shelters. At first, he thought of these activities as just things he had to do to keep up his disguise. But over time, something changed. One crisp autumn morning, Liam was at a food bank with Grace, giving meals to people in need. He saw a young mother with her child getting groceries from Grace. The mother thanked Grace, saying it meant a lot to her. Grace told her they were there to help and that she wasn't alone. Watching this, Liam felt a lump in his throat. For the first time, he saw how Grace's kindness really helped people. It wasn't just about money or fancy events, it was about making a difference. Later, as they drove home, Grace squeezed Liam's hand and told him she was proud of him. She said he had a big heart and that he connected well with the families they helped. Liam felt ashamed when he thought about the money he had been secretly taking. He looked at Grace's trusting face and felt like he might cry. "I just want to help," he said, his voice shaky with emotion. Grace smiled at him, not knowing what he was going through inside. "And you are helping. We're making a difference together," she said. As they drove home quietly, Liam thought about the families they had helped, the thankful faces, and the lives they were changing. He also thought about his own mother waiting in a small apartment. He had started pretending for her, but now he wasn't sure if he'd keep doing it. Liam felt stuck between his old plan and the new path he was discovering. Grace's love made his decision even harder. At Grace's latest charity event, people from all walks of life gathered to support each other. Liam stood by Grace, greeting guests and listening to their stories. One young man, with tears in his eyes, thanked Grace for a scholarship that helped him be the first in his family to go to college. Grace hugged him and said, "You did all the hard work. I'm just glad I could help." Liam felt a lump in his throat watching this. He saw how happy Grace was and how grateful the young man was. It was a moment of pure kindness that really touched him. Throughout the night, more people came to thank Grace for her help. One was a single mother who could finish her degree thanks to help with childcare, and an elderly couple who were able to stay in their home because of Grace's support. Liam began to see money differently. It wasn't just about having lots of things. It was a way to help others and make a big difference. As he looked at Grace with new admiration, he understood the true value of her kindness. That night, as they lay in bed, Liam couldn't sleep. He watched Grace sleeping peacefully, her face calm in the moonlight. His heart felt pulled in two directions. He thought about his original plan and his mother still struggling, but he also thought about Grace, who was kind and good. Liam had done many good things, but now he was feeling unsure. He was having trouble deciding between his initial plan and his real feelings for Grace. The next morning, Liam felt uneasy. He had restless dreams, and his conscience was bothering him. When he went downstairs, he found Grace in the kitchen, smiling and preparing breakfast. "Good morning, darling," Grace said warmly. "I have something to tell you." Liam's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" he asked, trying to sound calm. Grace's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I hope you don't mind, but I've been helping your mother with her medical bills for the past month." Liam was shocked. He couldn't speak and just stared at Grace. Grace thought his silence was shock. "I thought this might make you feel better," she said, and tears filled Liam's eyes. Her kindness made him feel even more guilty for planning to deceive her. He struggled to find words. Grace, I I don't know what to say, he managed to say, his voice choked with emotion. Grace squeezed his hand and said, "You don't have to say anything. Your mother's health is important to me because she's important to you." Liam felt overwhelmed with guilt. Grace was helping his mother without expecting anything in return. Liam had been planning to take advantage of her generosity. As Grace busied herself with breakfast, Liam sat at the table, deep in thought, questioning everything, his plan, his motives, and his own character. He thought about confessing his plan to Grace, but was afraid of losing everything, not just the money he wanted, but also Grace's love and trust. Grace then handed Liam an envelope with a twinkling smile. "Open it, darling," she said gently. Liam opened the envelope and saw a check for a huge amount of money. His mouth fell open in surprise. This is for me?" he asked quietly. Grace nodded. "Yes, my dear. I want you to use it for your mother's care or for any dreams you have." Liam stared at the check. It was more money than he had ever seen, enough to solve his problems, pay for his mother's medical bills, and start a new life. It was everything he had planned when he first wanted to marry Grace. But looking at Grace's loving face, Liam felt a knot in his stomach. The weight of his deception was heavier than ever. Grace loved him unconditionally and trusted him completely. She was offering him a gift that could change his life. Liam thought about taking the money and disappearing, which would be easy. He could take care of his mother and start fresh somewhere else without anyone knowing the truth. But as he thought about it, he was torn. Liam felt really bad inside. He had been lying to Grace, who had always been nice and loving to him. He felt terrible about walking away from someone who had been so kind. Liam had two choices. He could tell Grace everything, how he had tricked her at first and how his feelings had changed, or he could keep quiet. He worried about whether she would forgive him and if she would understand that he really loved her now. Liam was standing with a check in his hand, unsure what to do. Grace was watching him with loving eyes, not knowing about his struggle. Liam sat at the computer, looking at the check and his secret bank account. He was about to transfer money to secure his future, but he couldn't do it. As he stared at the screen, he remembered all the nice moments he shared with Grace. Her smile when she invited him to lunch, her kind eyes when he talked about his mom, and her excitement about her charity work. Liam felt sad, thinking about all their shared times and how she always trusted him. His hand shook as he reached for the mouse, but instead of clicking the transfer button, he closed the computer. He couldn't betray Grace. His feelings for her had become real, and he decided he had to tell her the truth, even though it scared him. He found Grace in the garden, happily taking care of her roses. He felt his heart hurt as he walked over to her. "Grace," he said softly, "I need to talk to you." Grace smiled at him and asked what was wrong. Liam took a deep breath and started to speak. He told her, "I haven't been honest with you. I had a plan, a really selfish plan." Grace listened quietly, looking concerned. Liam continued, "When we first met, I wanted to marry you just for your money because I needed help with my mom's bills." He was really sad and couldn't look at Grace. "I didn't mean to fall in love with you," he said, tears rolling down his face. "But I did, and now I can't go through with it. I can't hurt you like this. You have always been kind to me, and I've only lied to you." Grace didn't pull away from him, but she didn't shout or tell him to leave. Instead, she stayed quiet and looked at him with kind eyes. As he talked, Liam felt encouraged by her silence. He told her about his plan to take small amounts of money and how her kindness had slowly changed him. He shared how he felt torn between needing money and loving her. Grace listened calmly and didn't interrupt, letting him share everything about his lies and how he wanted to be better. When Liam finished, he was nervous about her reaction. To his surprise, Grace smiled gently and took his hand. Her touch was warm and comforting. "Oh, Liam," she said softly, I knew about your plan from the start. Liam's eyes grew wide in shock. You knew? He asked, not believing it. Grace nodded, her eyes sparkling with kindness. Yes, I did. I'm part of a group that helps people and tests their honesty. When I met you, I saw you were in need but had a good heart. I wanted to give you a chance to choose to be good. Liam was stunned as Grace explained more. She had seen the good in him and wanted him to choose love over greed. Tears filled Liam's eyes as he realized Grace had known everything, but still chose to love and trust him. But why? He asked softly. Why take such a risk? Grace squeezed his hand and said, Because I saw that you could be good. I believed you would choose love and honesty if given the chance, and you did. Liam felt overwhelmed with emotion. Grace had believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. She had given him a chance to be better. Grace's eyes were full of compassion as she looked at him. Liam, I forgive you, she said warmly. Liam was surprised and emotional. You forgive me just like that? He asked. Grace smiled gently and said, Yes, I do. I've seen you change and open your heart to helping others. Everyone deserves a second chance, and you've shown you're worth it. Tears rolled down Liam's cheeks as he understood how much Grace had given him. He had come into her life with selfish plans, but she had seen the best in him and believed in him. Grace, I don't know what to say, he whispered, touched by her kindness and grace as he looked into her eyes. Liam felt a big change in his heart. The guilt and shame that were always there started to go away, replaced by a new feeling he had never felt before. He suddenly knew he really loved Grace. I love you, he said quickly, surprised by his own words, but knowing they were true. I love you, Grace, and I promise to spend my whole life making things right. I want to be the man you believed I could be. Grace's eyes grew wide with happiness, and she held his hand tighter. Oh, Liam, she said, her voice full of emotion. Liam kept talking, his words coming out fast and sincere. I want to help people like you do, and I want to use my skills to make a difference. Will you teach me? Will you let me be part of your world of giving and kindness? Grace nodded, tears of joy shining in her eyes. Of course, Liam, nothing would make me happier than to share this journey with you. Liam took a deep breath, looked into Grace's eyes, and said with determination, Grace, I need to make things right. I want to return every penny I took from you. Grace's eyes widened in surprise, but she stayed quiet, letting Liam continue. And I think it's best if you take away my access to your accounts. Liam added quietly, I don't deserve that trust yet. Grace reached out, gently holding Liam's hand. Liam, I appreciate your honesty and your wish to make amends. If that's what you think is right, I'll respect your decision. Liam felt a big weight lift off his shoulders. He had been scared of her reaction, but Grace's kindness surprised him again. Then Grace's eyes sparkled with excitement. I have an idea. Instead of just returning the money, why don't we use it for something good? Something that fits with what you've come to care about. Liam was surprised. What do you mean? Grace smiled warmly. I've seen how moved you are by our charity work. Let's use the money to start a new project together. Liam felt very emotional. Using the money he had taken for something good felt like the best way to make up for it. That sounds amazing, he said, his voice thick with feelings. But what kind of project? Grace gently squeezed his hand. That's something we can decide together. What issues have touched your heart the most during our work? Liam thought about the children they had helped, the ones without good education or health care. I can't stop thinking about how their lives could change with just a little help, he said softly. Grace's face lit up. That's perfect, Liam. We could start a foundation to help provide education and health care for these children. As they talked about the ideas, Liam felt a strong sense of purpose. He realized he had been searching for a way to make a real difference, not just to get rich. A month went by with a lot of hard work. Grace and Liam put their hearts into their new foundation. They grew closer every day. their bond getting stronger from their shared purpose and true love. On a cool autumn morning, they stood hand in hand in a small garden with people whose lives they had touched. The air was filled with joy and excitement as they got ready to renew their vows. Liam looked at Grace, his eyes shining with love and gratitude. She wore a simple white dress and looked very happy. He couldn't believe how much his life had changed because of her belief in him. As they faced each other, they were filled with love and hope for the future. Liam took a deep breath. This time, there were no secrets between them. He spoke from his heart, his voice clear and steady. Grace, when we first met, I was lost. I thought I knew what I wanted, but you showed me what really matters in life. Your kindness, your caring, and your love have changed me in ways I never imagined. Today, I stand before you as a better man, ready to share my life with you and the work we do together. I promise to love you, support you, and stand by your side through all of life's challenges. I vow to be honest, faithful, and true, now and always. Grace's eyes filled with tears as she listened to Liam's words. When it was her turn, she spoke with a voice full of emotion. Liam, our journey hasn't been easy, but it's been beautiful. You've shown me that second chances can lead to the most wonderful surprises in life. Your growth, your dedication, and your love have made me so happy. I promise to keep believing in you, supporting your dreams, and loving you no matter what. Together, we'll keep making a difference in the world, one life at a time. As they exchanged rings and sealed their vows with a kiss, the small gathering erupted in applause. Liam looked around at the smiling faces, children they had helped educate, families they had supported through tough times, and colleagues who had seen their journey. In that moment, Liam felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. He knew, without a doubt, that he had finally done the right thing. The path ahead was clear, filled with purpose and love. As he held Grace's hand, he felt truly fulfilled, ready to face whatever challenges life might bring, knowing they would face them together. As the weeks passed, Liam found himself becoming more involved in Grace's charity work. He started going with her to different events and programs, no longer just watching, but really taking part. One sunny afternoon, they visited a local center that helped families struggling with medical bills. While Grace talked with the organizers, Liam noticed a young man sitting alone, looking sad and worried. Liam walked over and introduced himself. "Hey there. I'm Liam. Mind if I sit with you for a bit?" The young man named Alex nodded. As they talked, Liam learned that Alex's mother was battling cancer and the family was drowning in medical debt. Liam's heart hurt for him, remembering his own tough times. He leaned in, his voice gentle but filled with understanding. "I know exactly how you feel, Alex. I've been there too." For the next hour, Liam shared his own story, the desperation, the fear, and the hope he eventually found. Alex listened closely, his eyes wide-widening as Liam described the support he received and how it changed his life. "You're not alone in this," Liam reassured him, placing a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. "We're here to help." Grace watched from across the room, her heart swelling with pride as she saw Liam connect with Alex. She could see the tension leaving Alex's shoulders, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Later that evening, as they drove home, Grace reached over and squeezed Liam's hand. "You were amazing today," she said softly. Liam smiled, feeling warmth spread through his chest. "It felt good to help," he admitted. "I never thought I'd say this, but giving back is incredible." From that day forward, Liam threw himself into their charity work with renewed energy. He started creating programs specifically aimed at helping families burdened by medical debt, drawing on his personal experiences to create meaningful solutions. As Liam and Grace worked together, they became closer and closer. They spent long evenings talking about new ideas, sharing their dreams, and planning for the future. Liam realized he was falling even more in love with Grace, not just because she was kind and generous, but because she made him want to be a better person every day. One day, Liam stood outside his mom's small apartment, feeling nervous and excited. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. When he walked into the cozy living room, he saw his mom, Margaret, sitting in her favorite chair, looking much healthier thanks to her regular medicine. "Liam, honey?" Margaret exclaimed, her face lighting up with happiness when she saw her son. "What a wonderful surprise." Liam smiled and sat down next to her. "Mom, I have something important to tell you," he said softly but firmly. For the next hour, Liam told his mom everything that had happened since he met Grace. He talked about his first plan, how guilty he felt, and how Grace's love and forgiveness changed him. Margaret listened closely, her eyes getting wider with each thing Liam shared. When he finished, the room was quiet for a moment. "Oh, Liam," Margaret finally whispered, her voice full of emotion. I don't know what to say." Liam lowered his head, worried that his mom might be disappointed in him. But then he felt her warm hand on his cheek, gently lifting his face to look at her. "I'm so proud of you, my boy," Margaret said, her eyes filling with tears. "You chose the right path, even when it was really hard." Liam felt a huge weight lift off his shoulders. "You're not disappointed in me?" he asked. Margaret shook her head with a tender smile. "I've always known you were a good person, Liam. Life hasn't been easy for us, but you never lost your kindness. Grace has helped you become the man I always knew you could be." Tears filled Liam's eyes as he hugged his mom. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "Your belief in me means everything." As they pulled apart, Margaret's eyes sparkled with happiness. "Now, tell me more about this wonderful Grace. I can't wait to meet the woman who has captured my son's heart." One early morning, Liam and Grace sat side by side at their dining room table, surrounded by papers and laptops. They were deep in discussion, planning their new project to help others. "I think we should call it Second Chances," Liam suggested, his eyes shining with excitement. "That's what you gave me and what we want to give these kids." Grace nodded, a warm smile spreading across her face. "That's perfect, Liam. I think your story will be the heart of this program." For the next few weeks, Liam and Grace worked hard to bring their dream to life. Liam and Grace wanted to help young people make good choices, no matter where they came from. One cool autumn morning, Liam stood in front of a group of teenagers in a gym. He was nervous, but he spoke clearly. "I know what it's like to feel stuck," he said, looking at the kids. "It might seem like the only way out is to do the wrong thing, but I've been there too." As Liam told his story, the kids listened closely. Some nodded and others leaned forward. "But I learned something important," Liam said with confidence. "Our choices define us, not where we come from. It's never too late to make the right choice." He explained the Second Chance program, which offered help with school, job training, and finding mentors. As he spoke, he could see hope in their faces. After his talk, a young girl came up to him with tears in her eyes. "Do you really think someone like me can have a second chance?" she asked quietly. Liam knelt down to her level, feeling very kind. "Absolutely," he said softly. "Everyone deserves a second chance, and sometimes all it takes is one person to believe in you." When the girl smiled, Liam felt very happy. He knew this was just the beginning of helping these young people. As the Second Chance program grew, Liam and Grace worked together even more. Their love for helping others brought them closer, making their relationship stronger. One evening, after a long day, they sat together on their porch swing watching the sunset. Grace rested her head on Liam's shoulder, and he held her close. "You know," Liam said quietly, "I never thought I could be this happy." Grace looked at him with love. "What do you mean?" she asked. Liam took a deep breath. "When I first met you, I thought money was the answer to everything. I was so focused on getting more that I didn't see what really mattered." He paused, feeling emotional. "But now, seeing how we're helping these kids, I realize that true happiness comes from giving." Grace squeezed his hand. "I'm so proud of you, Liam. You've come so far." Liam nodded, his eyes teary. It's all because of you, Grace. You saw the good in me when I couldn't see it myself. You gave me a chance to be better. As they sat there in the warm, fading sunlight, Liam thought about how much his life had changed. The sadness and guilt he once felt were now replaced by a sense of purpose and happiness. He thought about the kids they were helping and how they were giving them hope. It made him feel a joy he had never known before. "You know what?" Liam said, smiling at Grace. "I think we're the lucky ones. These kids are teaching us as much as we're teaching them." Grace's eyes sparkled as she nodded. "They remind us every day how powerful second chances are, don't they?" Liam leaned in and kissed her gently. "They do, and I'm grateful for my second chance every single day." As the sun set, Liam and Grace sat quietly together, their hearts full of love for each other and the life they had built. They knew that whatever challenges came their way, they would face them together, united in their mission to make the world a better place. Liam sat at his desk, looking through a big pile of mail that had built up over the week. Most of it was regular stuff about their foundation, but one envelope stood out. It was handwritten and just said, "Mr. Liam." Curious, Liam opened the envelope and began to read the letter inside. As he read, his heart filled with emotions. The letter was from Emma, one of the students in his Second Chances program. She wrote to thank him for all he'd done for her. Before meeting him and Mrs. Grace, she didn't think she had a future. Her family had a hard time making ends meet, and college felt impossible. But Liam saw something in her that she couldn't see in herself. Thanks to his guidance and the scholarship from his foundation, Emma was now finishing her first year of nursing school. It hadn't been easy, but whenever she felt like giving up, she remembered his words, "Your past doesn't define your future." Liam didn't just give her money. He gave her hope. His story inspired her to believe in herself and keep pushing forward. Emma ended the letter by saying that one day she hoped to help others just like he helped her. Liam was deeply moved, and by the time he finished reading, he realized his cheeks were wet with tears. He read the letter again, his hands shaking a little as each word touched his heart, reminding him of his own journey and how far he had come. "Grace," he called, his voice shaky with emotion. She came into the room, worry on her face. "What is it, Liam? Are you okay?" Liam nodded, unable to speak, and handed her the letter. He watched as her expression softened while she read. When she finished, Grace looked at Liam with tears in her eyes. "Oh, Liam," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. Liam stood up and hugged his wife, still holding the letter in his hand. "This," he whispered, his voice full of emotion, "this is why we do what we do. This is the real reward." As the sun rose on their first wedding anniversary, Grace and Liam set out on a journey that meant a lot to them. They were going back to the poor community that had been a big part of Liam's own transformation. The drive was quiet, filled with thoughts and memories. Liam held Grace's hand, showing his love and gratitude. As they got closer to the neighborhood, memories came rushing back to Liam, memories of his first visit when he was only thinking about himself. Now his heart was full of hope. They arrived at the community center, a simple building filled with people. As soon as they got out of the car, they were welcomed with cheers and smiles. Familiar faces rushed to greet them with hugs and handshakes. A young boy named Lucas, who they had helped get a life-saving operation, ran up to Liam and hugged him. "Look, I can run now," Lucas said, beaming. Liam knelt down, his eyes level with Lucas's. "That's amazing, buddy," he said, his voice full of emotion. "I'm so proud of you." As they moved through the crowd, Liam was touched by the love in people's eyes. These weren't just people they had helped, they were friends, partners in making a better future. Inside the community center, they were surprised to find a small celebration had been prepared in their honor. Homemade decorations hung on the walls, and a simple cake sat on a table surrounded by smiling faces. Mrs. Carter, the center's elderly coordinator, approached them with tears in her eyes. We couldn't let your anniversary pass without showing our appreciation, she said, squeezing their hands. You two have brought so much hope to our community. Liam looked around the room at the faces of people whose lives he and Grace had touched. He felt a deep sense of belonging. This was where he was meant to be. This was his purpose. As the day's celebrations came to an end, Liam and Grace stood hand in hand on a small hill overlooking the community. The setting sun painted the sky in beautiful colors of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood they had come to love. Liam gently squeezed Grace's hand, his heart full of gratitude. He turned to look at her, amazed at how her eyes sparkled in the fading light. "Grace," he said softly, "I never imagined my life could be like this." She smiled up at him, her face glowing with love and understanding. "Life has a way of surprising us, doesn't it?" Liam nodded, his eyes misting over as he thought about the journey that had brought him to this moment. "I came into your life with selfish intentions," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But you saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself." Grace leaned her head on his shoulder. "I saw a good man who had lost his way," she said gently, "and I knew that with love and trust, you would find your true path." As they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Liam felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. He thought about the lessons he had learned about honesty, integrity, and the true meaning of wealth. He realized that the richest moments in his life weren't tied to money, but to the love he shared with Grace and the difference they made together. "You gave me a second chance," Liam said, turning to face Grace fully, "and I promise you, I'm going to make the most of it every single day." Grace cupped his face in her hands, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "We'll make the most of it together, my love." As the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Liam and Grace stood in peaceful silence, content in each other's presence. They both knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, their love and shared purpose would guide them through. Would you forgive someone like Liam if they admitted their lies? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm spending hours upon hours writing these heartwarming stories for you, and your support is what keeps me going.